Hey, what's up, fellas? I'm Malicious Female Fan Steve Malicious here, back with the Moto G Stylus 5G. We're going to do a little October 2021 update because I started getting some comments lately, only lately, on the previous videos on the Stylus 5G saying, hey, what's up with the battery life? I'm only getting 5-6 hours, and that was not my experience whatsoever. So we're going to talk about the battery life on the Stylus 5G. We're going to talk about the overall performance now in October 2021 on the 5G. And I'm also going to teach you how to turn 5G off, because I think that's going to help you at least a little bit with the background drain on your Moto G Stylus. All of that and more. I would say and more, but that's pretty much it. But now I realize I can say more, because look at this. The Halloween pusheen that my wife gave me is in the house, set up with the Halloween themed decorations for the month of October. So plenty more today on this edition of Steve Malicious Tech. And we're back as always. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers. If you've gone past 5,000, if you've been loving all the tech, both new and old, go ahead and give that subscribe button a tussle. It certainly means a lot to me. So let's talk about the Moto G Stylus 5G. First off, let's talk about their performance and how it's been doing. I've had zero issue with this phone. Absolutely zero. No lag. Great experience overall. I've had just the ability, you really don't miss a whole heck of a lot when you pick it up versus flagships. And it's a phone that you have to think of differently. This is not a phone that you go into for the flashy stuff, right? This is not a phone that you go to for the refresh rate. This is not a phone that you go to for wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, OLED, like all the fancy stuff that are attractions for the more expensive devices. This is a phone you go to when you want a device that brings its lunch pail and hard hat to work every day. That's what this phone is. A nice, clean install of Android, fantastic battery life, which we'll get to in a moment, a smooth experience, power-efficient experience with the Snapdragon 480, 6 gigs of RAM, which we're going to talk about in a moment as well, but just a great big display, 1080p, the pen input for stuff that you need, and like I've said a bunch of times, it's going to do 95% of the stuff that you use a pen for as the fancier Air Command Bluetooth type pens. I love the changes they made to the pen. I think this is a worthy successor to the original Moto G Stylus, not that one that they came out with, well, this year. I guess it was earlier this year they came out with one that was a successor in name, but the specs were kind of off. This is definitely the one that you want to buy. And I've seen a lot of people talk about lag, but the people that I saw talking about lag in the comments section came right back and said, well, I just came from my S21 Ultra. Well, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't judge a $1,200 phone that's meant to capture all the consumer bells and whistles to get your attention to something that's really not. But just like, it really frustrated me. It frustrated me. The comparison drives me nuts, because you could have a Toyota and you could have a McLaren. Okay, the Toyota's going to get you the same location the McLaren is, but you didn't spend $500,000 to get there. You go to the same place a lot of times with the phones. A lot of people don't want super flashy. A lot of people don't want all the bells and whistles. This is a very capable device that has a nice big display, works really well, will do everything that you need on a smartphone, and do it well enough and not cost you an arm and a leg. And like I said in the original video when I was talking about this, the review, this cuts corners in ways that make sense. It puts the money where it should be. I like the fact that, unlike a lot of budget devices, this has the 6 gigs of RAM. I love the expandable storage. I love the fact that it has a headphone jack and the pen. I like the 256 base gigs of storage, base for a certain model. All right, we'll talk about that in a moment. I love the full 1080p display. I love the camera system. I love that you can do color point in real time on the camera system. And the macro lens, you throw that out. So let's make it 3 lenses, okay? But the camera is perfectly serviceable. Still the 48 megapixels. I love the fingerprint sensor on the back. The build. I really have not had an issue with this phone. I think they make quality devices. I like the fact that there are no nonsense devices, which is important for a lot of people. Right now, there are some carriers, there's a lot of carrier deals. I think you could get this. If you can get this north of 250 but under the 400, so I think 250 to 300 is the sweet spot right now in October 2021 for this device. If you could grab it for that, go ahead and do it. Now, be careful, because there were carrier, I don't know if they were carrier specific or they made different ones. There are deals that, like Boost Mobile has this for $200. I think Target had this pretty cheap as well. But here's the problem, okay, that I didn't even know was a thing. There's a version of this that Boost Mobile's selling for the $200 that's got 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage to start. Now, keeps the expandable storage, okay? So that might not be the biggest deal in the world, but when you're talking about budget devices sub $400, to me, the most important spec is the RAM. So sacrificing the extra 2 gigs of RAM, I don't know if that's necessarily something that you're going to want to do. I personally would save up, try to get it for $250, try to get it from another carrier, something like that that's on a deal, wait a little bit longer maybe on something like this, and get that 6 gig of RAM version. I think down the line, specifically with the Android 12, it's going to make all the difference in the world. And even just now, this device is a lot smoother. Listen, my original Moto G Stylus wasn't a slug. It was pretty good. But that 4 gigs of RAM and the 6 gigs of RAM on this one, you can absolutely tell the difference in the smoothness. Opening multiple apps. That it's not as aggressive with RAM management. Crashing apps that you haven't used in a little bit. Or when you open up a couple different apps saying, oh, the old one, when you go back to the other ones, they're still super smooth and queued up on here, which I like a heck of a lot. Okay, battery life. People are concerned about battery life. Those comments really shocked me when people said, well, the battery life was a drawback of this device, because to me that was like the purpose for this thing. In essence, like one of the major benefits of this was the 8 or 9 hours of screen on time. And here's what I think is happening. This is anecdotal. It's tough, right? Because it worked for me a little bit, may not work for you. I think 5G is the problem. And I don't think it's unique to the Moto G Stylus 5G. I've had a lot of devices this year, whether it be the S21 Ultra, the OnePlus 9, a lot of devices with battery drain this year. And I think at least part of the equation of what's going on is 5G. Because when I noticed it, when I first powered this back up, put the SIM in it and started using it, I noticed that without me even picking it up for the first hour or so, it was already down to 95%, which was bizarre for this device. That did not happen during initial testing at all. Then I started using it. I said, you know what? Let's just see what happens. And I put it on maximum load. Videos, gaming. I was scrolling Amazon, which for some reason Amazon is a huge power drain. If you're having significant problems with your power usage or your battery drain, take Amazon off of there. Or not off of there, but make sure it's closed out when you're done using it. Because it's a big battery drain, according to at least what the Moto was telling me. I used it. Just Twitter, constant screen on time. And the battery life is exactly what I remembered during use, when you were actually using the thing. Well, it wasn't on idle or standby. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, what's killing it? What could be killing it? I turned off 5G. I'll show you how to do that in a moment, because it's not the easiest, especially with AT&T devices. I turned off 5G. I didn't have that drain. It was still a little bit there, but the idle drain was not anywhere near what it was previously on the device. So you know what? Try it. I hesitate going over this. I hesitate even showing what I'm about to show in a moment, because it gets a step beyond what I would normally recommend people do, and it's stuff that could be, it's at your own risk. It's not that dangerous, but if you're somebody that doesn't usually tinker with this stuff, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you absolutely need the 8 hours of battery life and you're experiencing unnecessary drain, you believe, on your Moto G Stylus 5G, let's talk about how you turn off the 5G. Okay, so you're going to go in the phone dialer. All right, I'm going to include this in the description. You're going to type in *#. I'm doing it off screen so I can see it. *#, 4636, then #*, and you're going to get up a menu. It's basically an Android testing menu. And I hope I've basically got everything off of here that could be any revealing information like my phone number or something like that. But see how it's set preferred network type? And mine says LTE only. That's the one I selected. There was another one. I forget what the 5G one is. I think it's NRLTE or something like that. Listen, go on Reddit, go into groups and talk about that. I'm using the LTE only. And it's been working just fine for me. And it got rid of that power drain. So if you're somebody that doesn't need the 5G, you want to turn it off for now. 5G is going to be another video on its own. Because I think for the most part, especially in the New York area, at least the AT&T one, it's a joke right now. Not worth it. Certainly not if it's even consuming a little bit more battery than it would normally consume the device just on its own. So I'm happy turning it off, using between Wi-Fi and just LTE. And to me, the LTE seems faster. Maybe that's placebo. The LTE seems faster to me. But either way, that's the way you do it. I'll leave that in the descriptions at your own risk, right? At your own risk. It shouldn't mess up. You can always go back in and change it. It shouldn't mess up. Keep a mental note of what the network type was before that. But so in case you have to turn it back. But for the most part, it should be okay if you feel like that. And that might help a little bit. But when I did that and used it regularly, I could easily get back to the 7.5, 8 hours of screen on time. And that's without being careful. That's without really trying. So I think it's one of the major pluses of this device. I would still absolutely recommend this device, especially in that 250, 300 range. Run, don't walk. Absolutely worth it. Smooth as can be. Don't listen to people say it's lag, this and the other thing. Okay, you're coming from a $1,200, $1,500 device. There's going to be some whiplash. But if you use it every day, you're not going to notice anything that's just absolutely going to turn you off about this device. Solid, hardworking, decent price, stock Android, Moto gestures, and the pen. Absolutely going to get the job done. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.